Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily Word. I'm really glad that you've joined me, and we're going to jump into Luke chapter 12 today. I want to share verse 37 with you, and then let's talk just for a few minutes today about our readiness for the return of Jesus Christ. We read here these words of Jesus: "The servants who are ready and waiting for his return will be rewarded. I tell you the truth, he himself will seat them, put on an apron, and serve them as they sit and eat." So Jesus is speaking here about being ready for his return. And the way that he does that is to talk about the activity of the servants. And it reminds me, there's this kind of saying or phrase that about Jesus returns, that Jesus is returning. Look busy, right? And it's funny, but actually it sort of misses the point here. The point is not the activity in itself, but the faith and the relationship and the devotion that activity points to. The master has entrusted much to the servant. And in fact, you can see in that relationship, being willing to trust someone with so much, that there is a real relationship. There is a fondness on the part of the master, surely, for the servant in order to trust them that much. And so the question becomes, is that trust, is that love, that affection, is it returned? And I think the main question here is, does the servant anticipate the return of the master? And what I mean by anticipate is not just does he expect it, but does he want it? Does he want the master to return? There is such love in this relationship that the master will actually serve a meal to the servant, which is, to say the least, highly unusual for a master to say, "Hey, why don't you have a seat? I'm going to fix you something to eat. We're going to have a great feast here. Just want you to enjoy." Highly unusual, and yet this is exactly what Jesus promises and wants to do in love. The servant who abuses the other servants, who just parties instead of being about the master's business, that servant clearly does not want the master to return. Would just as soon the master never return and just allow him to go on doing whatever it is that he wants to do. And the truth, though, is Jesus is going to return. The Scriptures promised Jesus' first coming, and also the Scriptures promise his second coming. So we know that he's returning. Now, we don't know when, and we don't know if it will actually be within our lifetime. It may not. But we do know that even if Jesus does not return before we pass, we know that as he promises in John chapter 14, he will come to us. That in death, he will come to us and take us to be where he is. And so one way or another, Jesus is coming to us. And the question is, do we want that to happen? Is that something that we anticipate in our love, in our relationship with him? We've opened our hearts to Jesus. If we, in fact, love him and we want him in our lives and we long for his return, we've opened our hearts to him. He dwells in our hearts by faith. He will come again to get us. And are we anticipating that? Is that actually the joy of our soul? And if so, then we would have to conclude, and we can do this to our assurance, that we're ready. If we want to see Jesus face to face, we are ready. And it reminds me of this great hymn that I think most of you all will know, "It is well with my soul," and especially the last verse, and we're going to close with that verse. "And Lord, haste the day when the faith shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul." Thanks be to God. And in the words of the Scriptures, actually the last words of the book of Revelation, so the very end of the Bible. Come, Lord Jesus. Amen. Amen. And friends, until we get a chance to speak again, I pray that God would bless you and that He would keep you.